Emerging Threats Hub. What if the first U.S. nuclear test in nearly 30 years goes horribly wrong?
Hello and welcome to Emerging Threats Hub. I'm your host, Sebastien. For this What If episode, I've selected the news about Trump ordering the Pentagon to start nuclear weapons testing. This article stands out with the highest possible score across all criteria. Its intrigue factor is maximal. Breaking the decades-long moratorium on nuclear testing is a paradigm-shattering event that would instantly dominate global headlines. The speculative potential is enormous, with clear and dramatic variables to explore. What kind of test is it? How do other nuclear powers react? What happens to global non-proliferation treaties? Finally, its relevance and relatability are universal. Unlike niche defense projects, the topic of nuclear weapons carries an existential weight that every listener can immediately grasp, making the stakes personal and profound. It is the perfect catalyst for a what-if scenario that forces us to confront the most significant emerging threats of our time. So, what if the first U.S. nuclear test in nearly 30 years goes horribly wrong? Immediate ripple effects. The immediate aftermath would be defined by chaos and disbelief. A test intended as a show of strength becomes a symbol of catastrophic incompetence. Within 24 hours, global financial markets would plummet on fears of a new, volatile nuclear age. The White House would be thrown into crisis, attempting to control a narrative that is immediately defined by images of a failed detonation or an accidental radiological release. Internationally, allies in Europe and Asia would express horror and public condemnation, their faith in U.S. leadership and nuclear stewardship profoundly shaken. Russia and China would publicly condemn the incident, while privately viewing it as a geopolitical gift, using it to expose American recklessness on the world stage. An emergency session of the UN Security Council would be convulsed by accusation and recrimination, marking the effective death of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. The butterfly effect. Long-term consequences. 5 years after the failure, the global landscape would be unrecognizable. The incident wouldn't just end the taboo on testing, it would shatter the non-proliferation framework. Perceiving the U.S. nuclear umbrella as a liability rather than a guarantee, nations like Japan, South Korea, and Germany might accelerate their own independent deterrent programs. The arms race would no longer be about arsenals, but about active testing, as Russia, China, and other states feel free to resume atmospheric and underground tests without fear of international censure. The nuclear failure would become a potent recruiting tool for terrorist organizations and a rallying cry for a powerful global anti-nuclear movement. Technologically, the disaster could either lead to a quest for more fail-safe designs or, more likely, trigger a new destabilizing race for varied and exotic new warhead types, all without the stabilizing effect of test ban treaties. The human angle. For everyday people, the world would feel profoundly more dangerous. In the American Southwest, the failed test zone would become a new reality, with displaced families, long-term health crises, and a poisoned landscape serving as a constant visible reminder of the government's fallibility. Globally, a pervasive sense of anxiety would replace the post-Cold War calm. The doomsday clock would become a fixture in public discourse. Children would once again learn duck and cover in schools, and public awareness of radiation fallout patterns would become common. The psychological weight of living under a renewed, unpredictable, and demonstrably incompetent nuclear threat would foster a deep-seated cynicism about government and a global sense of hopelessness, fundamentally altering social and political life. The counterfactual debate. However, it's crucial to consider the alternative path. What if the test had gone exactly as planned? In that scenario, the world would still face a crisis, but of a different nature. Instead of incompetence, the U.S. would project terrifying competence. A successful, powerful test could be used as a blunt instrument of coercive diplomacy, a clear signal that the U.S. is willing to escalate first. While it would still strain alliances and break treaties, it would command a different kind of fear, one rooted in American strength rather than weakness. This might force adversaries like Russia and China to to the negotiating table from a perceived position of weakness, not as a response to a global disaster. The counterfactual, therefore, is not peace, but a more calculated and less chaotic slide into a new, overt arms race, driven by intimidation rather than a blunder. What if a U.S. president's attempt to show strength with a nuclear test didn't just break a global taboo, but broke the world? Thank you for joining me on Emerging Threats Hub. To continue the conversation, leave a comment or connect using the hashtag EmergingThreatsHub. I'm Sebastian.